There is a hierarchical structure, and a small number of individuals are making choices that will have far-reaching and negative effects on many people's financial situations. Respond to the lockdowns. That was the largest redistribution of wealth in human history, going from the masses to an extremely small elite. The recipient of $3.70 trillion is, I hate to say it, but the wealthy class. Nobody is more problematic than Yellen, who even used the term unsustainable to describe the situation. Plus, the course we're currently following cannot be maintained indefinitely. And I can't speak for you, but when our leaders discuss budgetary policy, it makes me feel a certain way. It doesn't make me feel good. Plus, it hits home when I hear McDonald's CEO state that, according to their own data, families with incomes below $45,000 are cutting back on their McDonald's consumption because they just cannot afford it. On a recorded line, he truly said that. He mentioned that they're having to make do with home cooking because going out for a Big McCon costs as much as $18. Surely you must be joking. Is that right? This is all simply a chain reaction of minor mishaps, right? If you get into the idea that it was all an accident, it's like the runaway train. Nobody intended for the train to be traveling at 80 miles per hour when no one was on board. We are able to accept that. Another option is to assume the existence of purpose. My favorite topic is Dictator Playbook 101, which I discuss frequently. There are several historical examples of people who achieved absolute power in this way. Do you have a job? In exchange for their votes, you deprive the masses of their means before showering them with goodies. Plus, I'll argue this is just my opinion that is indeed the case at the moment. A great deal of effort is being made to systematically purchase votes. I sincerely hope I don't end up living in this world. The present situation shows the US dollar being used as a weapon, cutting off the class and concentrating riches at the very top. But Bitcoin comes out on top as a defense, says famous investor Mark Yusko in his most recent interview. A supply shock in Bitcoin is expected as a result of the recent event and growing institutional interest, according to Yusko, who is worried about the growing power of the Warren clan over financial laws. In addition, he paints rising living expenses and the deliberate depreciation of the US dollar as tactics to consolidate power and control. In his final remarks, Yusko emphasizes Bitcoin as a way to bypass the system and forecasts a meteoric surge in its value once it crosses $5,000. Great investors, great thinkers, and great people all have one thing in common. They are always looking for and listening to other people's opinions, thoughts, and perspectives. Pay attention. Never listen with the intention of persuading the other person or changing their mind. Pay attention. This is something I do frequently with Bitcoin. I observe the naysayers and the fudsters, and I pay attention to what they have to say. What they're saying is reasonable, so I'm just going with it. Of particular interest to me in my 11 years of studying Bitcoin is the fact that the vast majority of them are completely illogical. For example, if you pay attention to what they're saying, you'll probably find that it's incorrect or illogical. Some of the criticisms have been valid. Plus, we've covered some ground that still has to be covered, but it's cool nonetheless. Regarding food bursting, my favorite and top pick is Jameson Lopp. I mean, he's brilliant. All he does is publish the facts. If someone had said, "Oh, it was Jamie Dimon," that would be great. The way she shows up and makes more is all that matters. The coding that indicates something can't happen is right here, and Jameson just casually posts about it. All it is a story about supply and demand. And we deliberated over this for months before finally getting approval, which, incidentally, we aced. We were off by 2 or 3 days, but we still finished first. I mean, where exactly are we? This two-step procedure is what people haven't fully absorbed, in my opinion. The demand shock, characterized by this ravenous hunger reminiscent of sailors, is not an isolated incident. Well, Michael was like a python. He'd chomp once, digest, then chomp again. Not every day, but at least once a week. This is more like the most ravenous jungle cat, I'm not sure what it is, that hunts and eats. Given the level of pushback from those in charge, this is going to drag on for sure. No, it is not welcome here. Everyone who is aligned with the Warren clan said, "We do not welcome those new ETFs." Additionally, as time goes on, it will gradually decrease while the amount of capital attempting to squeeze through the gate increases. Once again, this parallel is too illuminating for my taste. North Carolina emerged victorious in last Saturday's Duke vs. UNC basketball game, which we attended. My wife and I, together with my 13-year-old son and his friend, were emerging from the house. And you know what? Everything arrives at the same moment, even when people enter at different times. As you make your way through the crowded exit, you'll come to a tight entryway. Upon entering, we notice a set of stairs leading down to the street, and suddenly a gang of inebriated, boisterous men, it was obvious they were men, start sprinting through the audience. Even the children began to fall when they became entangled in it. Even though something horrible was going to happen, it never actually did. However, the problem arose when word got out about the sudden fear of missing out, FOMO, and many began to flee, thinking that something must be wrong with them. People are starting to realize things. At least that's how I feel. Because of the hard-coded halving cycle, the 4-year cycle exists. That is here to stay. Additionally, there was a shock to demand due to the supply. I meant exactly that. Remember the demand shock? These items were approved of by us. Thus, the common man can now begin to shop. The Fidelity Broad portfolio now includes it at 1% or even 13%. Based on their strategic approach, they have one ETF that is comprised of all their other ETFs. Additionally, they hold a 1% stake in FBTC, or is it FBIT, and a 1% to 3% weighting. Their tick eludes me. Free base coin. Integrity is FBTC and FBIT. However, what we are witnessing is the typical price increase following a demand shock. The day of the supply shock is irrelevant. It will occur at some point, whether it's 417, 418 ES, or 420. Many are hoping for 420 plus. We're cutting down from 900 to 450 per day. We are purchasing 3 times the current production at the current rate of inflows. That will result in 6 times the output at present. But now we get to the issue. Assuming the miners make a sale, that's just 6 times the production level. A small number of the miners, however, were making purchases. Seriously, they weren't even selling to cover their power costs. They were out shopping. People are putting money into the treasury in anticipation of this move, which is purely speculative and won't last long. The concept of treasury is another one that doesn't receive nearly enough